Um, Now, so far you've defined the cycling forces of mass and consciousness, which are gravitation, and consciousness evolution, what you call consolution. But what about the other paired forces?
Electromagnetism and quantum-magnetism are the fields of energy within and emanating from mass and consciousness. They are, in a sense, mirror-imaged forces when they combine in life forms. Quantum magnetism is the parallel force to electromagnetism. It's a word I coined combining consciousness and magnetism. And upon realizing this force would be present in all life forms, opened up a range of comparative analysis between these two forces, giving rise to the predictions of quantum magnetism.
Well, what's the first prediction?
The first prediction is, irrespective of size, the species able to support a greater thought level will have a higher quantum magnetism. This is possible because consciousness compresses as it attains higher thought levels. So the size of a species is not relevant to the process of consolution.
Is there any way to, prove that prediction?
Possibly. If we construct an electromagnetic sensor large enough to measure a horse all at once, a horse that's being put down due to, say, a broken leg, and we measure its electromagnetism, the sensor would then be raised up out of range of being activated by electromagnetism, up above the body of the horse. And the horse would then be put down by remote injection, which will reduce the life form's complexity to zero, in turn breaking the equally complex attraction rule, causing the release of the consciousness. And the sensor should then pick up a secondary reading, a quantum magnetic measurement of it as it passes through the sensor. Provided a secondary reading is attainable, we would then repeat the same experiment for a person that's close to passing away, of course, waiting for that moment to occur naturally. The result based on this prediction should be that the electromagnetism will be higher for the horse because of its larger physical size, but the quantum magnetism will be higher for the person because of their higher thought level. This would represent a window into the fifth dimension because we would have to conclude that physical size made no difference regarding the secondary reading. That's because only thought level did, indicating the presence of a form of energy, quantum magnetism, that compresses the higher thought levels in more evolved species.
Could that test also be used on other animals?
Yeah, before we get to that though, let me draw what I refer to as this window into the fifth dimension. And over here we'll mark electromagnetism, and over here we'll mark quantum magnetism, and here we'll put horse and we'll put person. We won't, I'll say, okay, yeah, we don't want to use an H for human, we'll use a P for person. And of course the horse is larger, and that's, electromagnetism is a physical third dimension energy. So it's going to be higher than it is for the person, right? Now, if it was just a physical universe, when something passed away, there shouldn't be any secondary energy passing through. But if we do get that, or if we can get that reading in this experiment, then the quantum magnetism for a person should be higher than it is for a horse. And see, this becomes our window into the fifth dimension, because all of a sudden we're looking at an energy coming out of a smaller life form that's higher. And that has to indicate something. And the prediction here is that what it indicates is that it goes back to this equation, thought equals consciousness times the speed of light squared. That you have a consciousness that when multiplied by the speed of light squared has a higher thought threshold. And that's, you can see that in the quantum magnetic measurement. So that as that consciousness comes out of the person, it'll have a higher reading.
So you're saying that by proving a smaller life form can have a larger secondary form of energy, which you call you called it what? Quantum magnetism?
Quantum magnetism, yeah, the parallel to electromagnetism.
That this will open the door into the fifth dimension and proof of that.
Yeah, we could repeat the same experiment for an amphibian and a reptile. A reptile that's smaller than an amphibian should have a higher quantum magnetic reading, because reptiles are more evolved than amphibians. So it works for a human and a horse, anything like a spider and an insect. you measure them, and the one that's more evolved, even though it's smaller, should have a higher reading. And that is if this experiment works. Because
That's an interesting experiment.
yeah, because as we prove the secondary form of energy is unrelated to physical size, we infer a different basis for that energy.
Something else is going on.
Yeah, and with enough conclusive experiments, quantum magnetism will be proven as a measure of consciousness thought level. And if I may say this too, with these relatively simple experiments, humankind could potentially launch into a new paradigm shift of new understanding with as much ease as when Francesco Redi in 1668 conducted experiments using jars with meat in them to disprove spontaneous generation. In this case, however, we would be proving the existence of something experimentally with reproducible results that would be unequivocal, moving all of us into a new level of understanding about our universe.
Wonderful.
It's exciting, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.